Hello everyone. In this video, we're going to be learning about the different basic data types available in the Python programming language. Now, in the last lesson, we learned how to use Python as a very powerful calculator, but numbers are just one of the many basic data types you can work with in Python. So in this lesson, we'll learn about some of the other ones. That said, the first data type we're going to look at is integers. And integers, or ints for short, are whole numbered values in Python. So integers include any positive or negative number plus 0 that do not include a decimal component. You can check the type of an object in Python using the type function. So we'll run that on this integer here, 12, to confirm that it is in fact an integer. So here we have type, and 12 is the argument, so I'll run that with Control Enter, and we can see that the type is int for integer. Now you can also use the isInstance function in Python to check whether an object is an instance of a given type. So in this case, we can say isInstance, and we want to know if 12 is an instance of type integer. So we're passing int as the second argument, and this will just check if that is true or not and return the result. So we know that it is true because we just checked it above. Now integers support all of the basic math operations that we covered in the last lesson, but a math operation that would result in a decimal value creates a floating point number instead of an integer. A floating point number is a different data type that is a number but that also has a decimal component. So for instance, if we do 1 divided by 3 or 1/3, the result of that is not a whole number as it expressed as a decimal, it's 0.333 repeating. So if we perform this division, we no longer have an integer, we're going to have a floating point data type. So we'll run that and we can see that if we do have a decimal component here, that means it's no longer an integer type. So if we were to, for instance, use the type function on the result of that calculation, we would not get integer anymore, we would get float. So we'll run type on 1 divided by 3, and that is a floating point. So that brings us to our next data type, which is floats. Floating points are just numbers with decimal values. And unlike integers, floating point numbers in a computer don't have unlimited precision, meaning you can only represent so many decimal points in a computer. So rational numbers that have an infinite number of decimal points, perhaps like the constant pi, are approximated, so they're not exact. Meaning if you go far enough over in the decimal places, you will see rounding and slight differences from what the true values would be. Now these tiny floating point differences from actual values generally don't concern us, but in cases where extreme precision is required and perhaps you're adding many of these together, they could add up and result in something actually significant. Now every number in Python with a decimal component is considered a float, even if there isn't anything in the decimal component. For instance, if we type out 1.0 here, where, well, this is essentially the same as just 1. The 0.0 doesn't need to be there, but the fact that it is there means this is considered a float type, even though the decimal has no actual value. So if we run type here, it will tell us that it's a float. And of course, if we run isInstance on something that we know is a float, and we ask, is that a float, it will say true. Now, if you perform arithmetic operations on numbers that are of mixed type, so here we have an integer 5, but we're adding the float 1.0. If you do that, the calculations will work, but the results will always be converted into floating points. Now, you can convert between integers and floats. So if you use the int function, int, you can convert a float into an integer. So running this will convert this 6.0 into the integer version, which will strip off the decimal point. So there's the integer 6. And you can also convert an integer to a float with the float function. So here we're converting the integer 6 into the float version, which will just add the decimal point. And floats can also take on a few special values, namely inf, negative inf, and nan, or not a number. So inf and negative inf stand for infinity and negative infinity, respectively. And NaN, as I said, is not a number, which is sometimes used kind of as a placeholder for missing or erroneous numerical values. Python does contain a third uncommon numeric data type called complex, which is used to store complex numbers. We're not really going to be going over that in this lesson, and it's not something you'll probably see too much, but know that that does exist if you happen to have need of using complex numbers. Next, we'll discuss our first non-numeric data type, the Boolean. Booleans, or bools for short, are true-false values that result from logical statements. In Python, Booleans start with the first letter capitalized, so true with the first letter capitalized is a Boolean value true, and false with the first letter capitalized stands for the Boolean value of false. Now, we've already seen an example of Boolean when we use the isInstance function, because what that does is it takes a value and checks whether it is an instance of a certain type and then returns a Boolean, true or false, as the result. Let's run type on true here to confirm that it is a Boolean value. You can see it's called bool for short. And now we'll check isInstance false with bool. That's asking, is false an instance of a Boolean? And the result of this should be true because false is a Boolean value. And that return value, true or given here, is also a Boolean because that's a true-false value. Now, Booleans are created when you use logical expressions, and Python supports all the standard logical operators you might expect in logic. So for instance, you can use greater than and less than to check whether numbers are greater than one another, and the result will be a Boolean. So we can check whether 20 is greater than 10. Well, it is, so that should result in a true Boolean value. You can also use greater than equals to ask if it's greater than or equal to a number, or similarly less than equals to see if a number is less than or equal to a number. So in this case, 20 isn't greater than 20, but it is equal to 20, so this should return true. And if you only want to check for equality, you use this double equals sign operator. You don't use a single equals because that's used for assigning variables. We'll learn about that in the next lesson. But here we're just checking, is 10 equal to 10? Well, that's true, so that's going to return a true Boolean value. Also, floats and integers that are the same actual underlying numeric value will be considered the same. So if we say, is integer 40 equal to float 40? Well, those are actually the same numerically, so that is going to return true, even though these are different data types. Check inequality, use the exclamation equals operator. So here we're saying 1 is not equal to 2. That is true, so it's going to return true. And for logical negation, you can use the keyword not. So here we're just going to say not false. Well, if we're negating false, that is going to be true. You can also check if multiple logical expressions are true at the same time using and or. So here we're checking whether this statement, 2 is greater than 1, and 10 is greater than 11. So this is doing, so by putting this and keyword between them, both of these statements need to be true in order for this whole logical expression to return true. This part of it is false, so the whole thing is going to return false, even though the left side is true. On the other hand, if we use the or keyword, that will return true if either of the statements are true. We don't really even need to check that one because we're just asking, are any of them true? And since we know one of them is, that is going to be a true statement. Now, similar to mathematic expressions, logical statements have a fixed order of operations. And in a logical statement, comparisons like greater than, less than, or equal are executed first. You can also use parentheses to enforce the desired order of operations for logical statements. Now, one other important thing to note about Booleans is that they can be represented as numbers. So zeros are considered falsy values or false, and ones are considered true values. So you can convert a 1 into a Boolean value with the bool function, and that will result in true. So if we say bool 1, that is considered a true value. And if we say bool 0, 0 is considered the false value for Booleans. Actually, you can pass any number other than 0 here, and that will return true. But generally, you want to think of ones as being trues and zeros as being falses. And so for our next data type, we're going to look at strings. Now, strings in Python are just bits of text surrounded by quotation marks. So basically, anytime you're working with text data in Python, it's going to be of type string. So here we're just saying cat. The type of that is going to be a string. And it's important to note that anything you enclose in quotations is going to be of type string. So here we have the number 1, but since it's enclosed in these quotation marks, this is actually the string version of 1, not the integer version. So if we run type on that, it's going to still say that it's a string. If you have two quotation marks right next to each other, such as two single quotes or two double quotes, without anything in between them at all, that is known as the empty string. Empty string often represents a missing text value. Before we move on, I will say that strings of text can be very messy and difficult to work with, so cleaning text data is often one of the more laborious steps in terms of preparing real data sets for analysis. So we will revisit strings in the future. We'll actually have a whole lesson covering functions and how to go about cleaning text data. And there's one final data type that we need to cover, that is none. In Python, none is a special data type that is often used to represent some sort of missing value or something that doesn't exist. For example, if you define a function that doesn't actually return any values and you run it, it will return none by default. So if we run the type function on none, capitalized, it's going to return that it's of none type. And below, we're just going to show that a function that doesn't actually return anything, the value when you run it is actually equal to none. So we haven't learned about defining functions yet, but I'll just walk you through this real quick because it's pretty simple. Here we're saying define a new function called myFunction that takes the input argument x, and what it does, colon, is print whatever x is. Well, all this function does is print the input argument. It's not returning anything. Returning means you take the value and give it back to wherever you called the function from, so you have some value to work with. This isn't returning anything, though. All it's doing is printing the value and returns nothing at all. So if we check whether this my function run on the input value of hello is equal to none, that is actually true because it doesn't return anything, so the default return value of none is returned when you run this. Even though it does do something, it prints a value, but it's not a return value. So when we run this, it is actually going to define this function and then check whether this is true, which it actually is in this case. So we can see from the output here, the function was run and did print hello, but also this equality check was made, and the return value of this function was actually none because it didn't return anything, so we got this return Boolean true here from this logical statement. And of course, we will cover defining functions in more detail in a future lesson. I just wanted to show you there that the default return value of none for functions that don't actually return anything. So now that we know about the different types of values we have available to us, well, it would be nice to be able to store them somewhere so that we can keep them in memory and then use them later. So in the next lesson, we'll learn how to do that by learning about variables. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you again next time.